Right, here we are again, Gaz.
Yes, mate. How are you doing, James?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Good.
Not long now. 20 days till Christmas Day. Have you wrote your letter to Santa?
You're counting. Right, so episode 2, Talking Wanderers. Again, thanks to our sponsors, Complete Carpentry and Build. Their website is now up and running at www.completecarpentryandbuild.co.uk. And again, thanks to them for their sponsorship for the podcast. What are we going to be talking about tonight then, Gaz? We're going to review Maidenhead, aren't we?
Yeah, talk about Maidenhead and about the 1-1 draw on Saturday.
Yeah.
There's a couple of polls, or a poll that you did I thought was brilliant.
Yeah.
Who I thought man of the match was.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of guests coming in. We'll talk about them later.
Yeah.
And just have a little jingle and talk about what's coming up. Obviously, games are coming up thick and fast.
Yeah, so we were saying, weren't we? So we're now going to be doing this every 2 weeks, and we said there's a lot of games coming up, isn't there? So by the time these come out, we might have missed some of the midweek matches and things like that, and it's not necessarily always easy to keep up with them, but we will do our best. But obviously the first one that we're going to chat about, because York was a couple of weeks ago, and hopefully you all saw on social media some of the little voice clips that we had, Stuart Covey and a couple of the younger fans who'd gone to that game.
That was brilliant.
Who I spoke to afterwards, Miles, Dylan and Albert, I think was the other lad, who a couple of them, it's their first game.
Yes, brilliant.
So hopefully they come back to Meadowbank, as that's kind of the future of the club, isn't it? They were there with their dads, so that was good to see. So Maidenhead then, Gaz.
Before we go on to Maidenhead, you don't mind saying sorry about it. Just want to say so sorry about the gentleman that passed away at the Bromley game, because Bromley versus Yeovil Town was stopped, then it was abandoned, and I'm not sure how I don't know what happened there, but all I heard was someone died. So obviously that's our thoughts go out to everybody involved in that, because obviously this time of year, that's the last thing you want anytime. So our thought goes out to the family for the person that passed away at the Bromley and Yeovil Town, because at the end of the day, football's nothing compared to that.
It's awful, isn't it? Nobody goes off to football and then doesn't expect to go back home again afterwards.
100%.
We should always never take that for granted, really. Yeah. So I absolutely echo what you said there, Gaz.
Yeah, so it made Maidenhead. Great start, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was a great start.
Down that slope. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mark didn't know nothing about that slope. He never know. So that was a strange one. But yeah, what a start. And what a good goal as well.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Really good finish. So I was behind the goal there. You probably had a slightly better view than me. And all the defenders sort of stopped and were appealing for offside. And it was a lovely finish. Really, really good finish from Seeger. Smashed it into the far corner, back across the keeper. And like you guys, we were thinking, here we go, and it's good. And then that momentum of down the slope, and obviously one of the key players in the move for that goal was Josh Taylor, wasn't it?
Yes.
And he had to go off again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Have we heard what that might be? Was that his ankle again?
His ankle. He's turned his ankle again.
Yeah.
Everybody must know when you do your ankle, that's, it's difficult to get that quickly, especially as the games are coming quick and thick and fast, to get that mended. But no, it was a superb move, and Jasper Patterson was involved as well. Yeah. Played it to Josh, and I love those runs that Seeger makes. He always makes those runs across the 18-yard box, across it, not into it, across. Yeah. And he does that a lot, but we don't seem to pick him out, and he finished it so well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He finished that one really well.
Yeah.
The other one I was going to mention was the one on about half an hour, wasn't it? When a similar sort of move that had led to that. He made that run again, and I think a lot of their defenders again stopped thinking he was offside. He must have bent his run on the shoulder of the defender. And I don't think he realised that he had as much time and space as he did, because, again, being right behind the goal and at the side where he ended up hitting that shot, it was one of them where you just wanted somebody to say to him, you've got time here, sort of get your head up. And I think he kind of thought he had to get a shot away quickly, rushed it and passed the post. And I think, because I did speak to a Maidenhead secretary yesterday on Zoom, which we'll add into this and get his thoughts. And I thought if we'd have gone 2-0 up at that point, I'm not sure that I think we would have been okay with that, because Maidenhead don't score a lot of goals by their own admission, and perhaps we would have got more chances as the game had gone on at being 2-0 up.
Yeah, definitely. I just thought they showed us so much respect in that first half. They gave us so much room in that midfield, and they weren't working. But second half was totally different. Obviously they got a bit of a rollicking from the gaffer, and they come out a different team, really, but they were dangerous. They hit the crossbar. They hit the crossbar in the
first
first
twice,
half.
didn't they?
Yeah. And the great save by Josh Walsh.
Yeah.
Because he made the team of the week, didn't he?
Yeah,
in that
I saw that.
paper, which is congratulations to you, young man. Well done. You deserve that.
I mean, it was obviously he had that baptism of fire in that first game, didn't he?
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
But other than that mistake that day, he didn't really have a lot to do. No. So you couldn't really judge him as a goalkeeper because he hadn't had a great deal to do in that Bromley game. But then, Saturday he was really, really good. He showed his real potential, what he's got as a keeper. I thought he was superb with his handling
and his kicking
and his punching and his aggression coming for some of those crosses that were coming in as well, which I guess was kind of one of the big things that he kind of wanted from a goalkeeper, to be able to come and just get over the heads of the defenders and everybody in and around him and try and punch the ball clear.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, obviously the goal was a little bit a sickener. You know what I mean? They were a big team. They were big and strong, weren't they?
They were.
And they loved good crosses. They did put decent crosses in, Maidenhead. And I think he was just a little bit too late to get there. He was just on his heels.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
But hey ho, that's all learning. It's a learning. So it's hard for a goalkeeper to where they learn.
Yeah,
it's normally a goal, isn't it?
So I thought that our defence, the back three, and Joe Walsh in goal were have been so much more resolute and solid over the last few games. And obviously, we did when we had Mark Beard on here. He said that they were working on stuff so much, weren't they? And it's good to see some of that stuff is paying off. And I think, and that's why that's why I did that poll. That's why I included Walsh, Joe Cook, who I thought was really good again, Ed Harris, and McShane. And certainly McShane had an impact in the first half. I thought he was picking up a lot of the second balls, doing that thing that he does where he reads the game well, getting a lot of the knockdowns and the drops and being there for that. Not so much in the second half, because I think the game was set up so differently in the second half, wasn't it?
Definitely. They were working so hard, and they were in the first half, we had acres in midfield, and we were getting in those little pockets, as you said. But second half, they were working hard at Maidenhead, and that Stoke did come into it, no doubt about it. And they just worked better. They worked harder, and we just couldn't get those spaces or little areas that we need, that we want.
So, and I fully agree with that. I think, it was definitely one of those games of two halves, really, as you said to Mark after the game. So we also did that poll, and Ed Harris got the overwhelming vote on that, over 50% of the vote on that, for his man of the match display.
But should he have been on the pitch? With that, Gary? But should he have been on the pitch? Should have been sent off.
Yeah, I didn't see. He got booked,
obviously, and then he was marking Aqua, the big number 14, the striker.
Yeah,
he had his arms round his waist, and they went to ground. And the referee, when I was doing a commentary with Tom Rogers, and I said, he's got to be booked. He's been booked already. He's got to go.
Yeah.
And I thought the ref went to his back pocket. But I don't know what the ref was doing.
And is that what Mark was mentioning in the interview afterwards? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And they said, they were quite gutted they never got 3 points.
Yeah, I know they were. The Neil, the Maidenhead supporter I spoke to yesterday, felt a little bit the same. They were a bit disappointed that they didn't win it. And I saw the interview there. I think it was their assistant manager was there afterwards, a bit disappointed.
Yeah, I spoke to him as well,
And their fans up and around us were a bit disappointed. And I think you have to look at Dorking now as almost like some of what's gone this season has gone, because people are saying, they concede X amount of goals. Why have we not been able to score more? But we've mixed and matched our defence. We've changed our formation. We've changed our playing personnel. But what we had on Saturday seems to be a stronger back three with Walsh in goal behind them as well.
Yeah.
And hopefully we might not be as porous as we have been, where we've conceded, on average 2.5, 3 goals a game.
Definitely. No, you got Fuller there, obviously the skipper.
Yeah.
He's got loads of games under his belt. Harris, another one experienced, and Cookie, I spoke to him on the way out. I said, well played, well done. He said, I'm playing on the left. He's right-footed. Well, he's both-footed to be fair, but he's right strong, and he's playing on the left of the three, so he's doing a grand job. So,
I think he was really good again, wasn't he?
I tell you what, I did say this to Mark in the interview. We look back on that point at the end of the season and we say, that's a good point. That was.
Yeah.
I think we will.
I mean, we've come away from some of the games a bit disappointed, haven't we? Torquay haven't been 3-1 up. Woking haven't been 3-2 up, and some of those other games. And yet, when you say we'll look back on that, and perhaps we'll think, actually, that was quite a good point, especially how we defended
second half.
Second half. And I think I think that was why he'd got that vote, because he just won everything, won all the headers. He was getting in front of his man. He was making it hard for him, wasn't he? And then that can only be a good thing, because really in the last two games, the York game and this game, he's had really good games again, hasn't he? And he's missed periods of the season with head injuries and stuff.
Yeah.
And so
I do worry about his head. I do worry because he heads the ball so much.
Yeah.
And obviously what's happened in the past. I know the ball was heavier back in the day, but I do worry. I'm being serious.
Yeah.
It's a concern for me because he heads the ball. Well, how many times do you think he heads the ball a game?
A lot. Yeah, a lot
of time.
Yeah.
It does.
More so probably in the National League now than he's done at the National League South level and things like that.
Yeah, they go direct more
because of the direct play that a lot of teams do, and also being that middle of the three.
100%.
So if any diagonals are coming through, he's kind of the one that's intercepting them and winning that and heading it away, even if it's not clean header. It's a flick, or it's sort of heading it away, or heading it to a teammate or back to the goalie.
But
it's still winning those headers.
That's part of the game. On the other thing, which on a positive note, we've been leading away games. The team's got back, then they've gone on and beaten us. Where Saturday, as you keep saying, with the defence, we seem to stop, hopefully, touch wood, we've stopped that, and we didn't let them concede, we didn't concede a second. Where we might have, a few months down the line, we might have done that, mightn't we?
Yeah, that's why I think it was a good point, because I do think that maybe a few weeks ago, we may have ended up losing that game.
Exactly.
Because of one of those long throws or the corners that were coming in the second half, and yes, you can be a brilliant defensive side, but you only have to, switch off for a second, don't you, with concentration or something, and somebody's scuffed one in over the line or something.
They said it last night, England.
Deflected in, hasn't it, and stuff like that. So, I do think that we will look back on that as a good point.
Yeah, I said that on the England game last night. Roy Keane, he says, sometimes defenders get bored.
Yeah.
They get bored.
Yeah.
Let's try something else. Let's try that little pass rather than keep doing what they keep doing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really good point.
Yeah.
And especially at our standard of football as well.
Yeah.
And you've got to switch off, like you say.
Just that lapse of concentration, isn't it?
Yeah,
Look
definitely.
back over some of the goals that we've conceded this year, and that's a lot of the time, that's all it possibly be down to. Just that momentary lapse.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Because most of the time, if a player makes a mistake, round the 18-yard box, it could be, normally it ends up in a goal. Mistake. So, it'd be interesting to look back. So, as you said, by the time we finish, this comes out, Halifax, but what a result there on Saturday.
Yeah, I know.
Chesterfield at home,
kind of sets them up. They'll be on a high, and then similarly, Chesterfield on Saturday will be wanting to put that right, won't they?
Exactly.
We've got both those teams in the next 4 days.
So what are you thinking? What would you take out of those two games? Would you take a point?
I think, I mean, both are going to be tough, aren't they? They always are. Tough on the bodies, tough on the legs, the constant turnover of games. I don't imagine Halifax's pitch is going to be in great shape for tomorrow night.
Could be heavy.
Could be heavy again. And then, Chesterfield is one of them. It's a bit of a free hit, isn't it, really? You go to there with no great expectations and you never know what could happen.
No.
As we've seen in this league, teams can beat other teams, can't they?
AFC Halifax.
But look at York at the weekend. They held Wrexham to a draw, didn't they? Wrexham scored late on and York, in added on time, went down the other end and equalised.
Yeah.
The guy that just came on, it was pretty much his first touch.
I saw that.
To get a draw. Obviously, there was some. Woking had a good win at the weekend again.
Yeah, they're looking good.
Barnet had a good win against Wealdstone. So those sort of clubs are up and around there.
So we're talking about those teams. We drew at Woking.
I know.
And we beat Barnet away. So, you look over bigger picture. It hasn't been that bad, is it?
I know.
Down the bottom.
And I think, Gaz, have you got the league table there as well, mate? I think as well that we are the highest of the newly promoted teams at the moment, unless York are just above us.
No, York are below us.
So if we're above York, then we're above them and Gateshead and Maidstone, aren't we? So the teams that came up from the respective national leagues, North and South, we're the team that are up there.
Yeah, we're in 16th place. Yeah. If we get 3 points tomorrow, we jump above AFC Halifax and go up. We could even jump above Boreham Wood, go up to 29. We could end up to 12.
Technically a game in hand, isn't it, tomorrow?
Yeah. But like someone said as well, from 9th right down to, where are we? 18th. It's only 4 points in.
Yeah, I know. It's really bunched, isn't it?
This season is like, I think it is, everybody seems to be beating everybody.
Yeah.
So it'll be
really
interesting.
bunched.
And, well, good luck to the boys tomorrow.
So, that was our view of the game on Saturday against Maidenhead. But I did speak to Neil, who is, he's Maidenhead's secretary.
Right, Neil, thanks for joining us. What is your role at Maidenhead then?
I'm the club secretary, James.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and everything that entails. So that's player contracts and match day arrangements and all that kind of thing. Part-time role with the club, which I'm very privileged to have, very much enjoy as a supporter. So yeah, it's great. It's nice to be involved right in the mix of things. So it's good fun.
Yeah. So is Maidenhead like been your team for as long as you can remember? How did you kind of get into that then through them?
I'm not Maidenhead born and bred. I'm down the road actually. I was born in Reading, so I used to watch Reading as a youngster. Maidenhead, I started working in Maidenhead in about 2006. Used to go to the odd game anyway here as a bit of a ground hop. 2006, I started working in Maidenhead, so it was very much a case of, great, I can get to some Tuesday games. Tuesday games became Saturday games. If I'm honest with you, the pro game, a bit less interest to me these days, really. I will watch the World Cup and enjoy watching that, but football at that level, even championship level, is a bit of a TV show, really, rather than anything I can really enjoy. I can get my teeth into non-league football, and it's like the fact you can mix with people. We don't tend to segregate most of our games, so you get to meet supporters from other clubs. So I've not gone back really, and going from a supporter on the terraces out here to wearing a club tie on a match day, something I never would have believed I'm doing. You can't get the staff, James, unfortunately. So that's where I am.
Oh, no, that's good. That's good to hear. So, what were your? So obviously you were there yesterday, then, Neil. What were your thoughts on the game yesterday, then? Your sort of take on that, then? Yeah,
I thought. Well, I would say this. I think in the end we're probably a bit disappointed we've not taken all three after a terrible start. I think equally, Dorking will feel they've got what they deserved as well. Defended well. I listened to your manager's interview after the game. He felt a draw was a fair result. You had the blow of losing Taylor, wasn't it, who went off in the first half?
Yeah, Josh Taylor. Yeah,
he was involved in the goal, wasn't he? He was.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
he's balled through for the goal, which was a great finish. And I think we thought, hang on, this isn't good. We hadn't played well the previous week at Maidstone. Before then, we'd been on a relatively good run of form. I just felt once we got level, we've had, Dorking could equally argue there's not been many chances we've had. We've hit the crossbar a couple of times, but they were pot shots, really, weren't they? Rather than clear chances. I think the best chance we had was right at the end. The felt Mikulski. Sean just couldn't bundle it the right side of the post. So, from a Dorking point of view, I imagine a good point against the side sort of around you in the league. So, I'm happy with how we played. We were much better yesterday than we were against Maidstone. So, onwards to a hard game next week.
Yeah. Obviously, you've got Notts County coming to your ground, haven't you, next week? So you were saying earlier there, Neil, about like that sort of will you be doing segregation for that? Is that something that you'll have to look to do?
We will segregate Notts County. The only reason being is that they will have 800 tickets. They've asked to pre-sell their tickets. As you're aware, we normally sell on the day. Our supporters quite like non-segregation. They quite like being able to go behind either goal. The Dorking fans yesterday were great. No issues at all. Just goes to show that supporters from two clubs can mix. The reason we tend to do it is more of a crowd control thing, really, than anything personal against any of the clubs. I think we're one of the few that don't segregate now, to be honest with you. So, listen, every club's got their own way of managing things. It's not the easiest ground, really, York Road, to manage things at. It's very basic, very old ground. So in some ways, it's easier to let people get around and do what they want to do. But sometimes it's just a matter of crowd control if it's big numbers. Yeah.
Well, so that kind of linked me in nicely to what you were saying about the ground then yesterday, having been there yesterday for the first time. So obviously, from your personal point of view, you probably you probably absolutely love it there. Is there any sort of upgrades or anything that's going to have to happen to the ground? Or I'm just like putting that out there, because for me personally, it was, it is what it is. You turn up at these places and you get all sorts, don't you? As you will know, having gone up through the National League and the South and everything as well. And it kind of reminds you of other grounds, doesn't it? It certainly reminded people yesterday of other grounds that we'd been to over the last few years. But that side around where the changing rooms are and all along that little bit there is kind of a sort of a bit of an anomaly with that AstroTurf bit under that cover that presumably was a stand at one point.
That's right. There was a stand that side. Where the changing rooms are now was a lovely old wooden stand which was burned down about 36 years ago. The club have never replaced it until the stand on the far side was built in 2014. We wouldn't have had the seat capacity to host National League football. And to be honest with you, for most of our history, that's not been a problem. But Alan Devonshire coming back to work miracles. He's somehow got us into this big league. I'm sure you're enjoying it as well.
Yeah.
It is a big league. We are going to move grounds. So,
oh, wow.
So that upgrade is the word. We're going to be moving, all being well, about half a mile actually, out of town to a site called Braywick, where the rugby club are based, and there's a sports hub there already.
I think I came through there on the way yesterday because the M4 was shut.
You probably would have.
We went along past there, and there was a lot of land out there, and
indeed,
along the side of the road. I think that does ring a bell from yesterday.
That's exactly right. You've realised that the rugby club are, and we would be kind of near neighbours with them. So that's in the future. That's perhaps a couple of years away. It's very difficult to host particularly the bigger clubs in this league here. Rightfully, they've got bigger expectations of, what they need for their staff and things like that, stuff we struggle to accommodate with. The more away supporters, the merrier. Frankly, it's not like we've got a huge fan base that's selling out the ground every week. It's grown as we've come up through the divisions. But, that's coming in the future. Two sort of mixed feelings about it. We love the place, but we can equally kind of see what the club are wanting to do, safeguard the club's future. Because if we want to stay at this level, we're already working, like yourselves, with behind the back in terms of the part-time status of the club. It's our choice.
Yeah.
But it does make it harder, as you've seen as well. So, watch this space. You could be visiting a brand new ground in a couple of years.
Oh, wow, yeah. So all that history then.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the trade-off.
So are you part-time then, Neil, as well?
Yes.
Maidenhead part-time, the plan.
We're a part-time club like yourselves.
Yeah.
I understand you're part-time as well.
Yeah.
It's a part-time setup. I think, I don't want to speak for the chairman and the CEO and the manager, but, we frankly are really punching in the league in terms of staying amongst some big clubs, and even clubs that we've played regularly in previous years have really grown. The likes of Boreham Wood and Woking and teams like that have gone full time. So it's a hard slog. And if the worst were to happen and we were to go down, 4 teams have got to go. We could quite easily be one of them. It's easier to reverse or easier to carry on being part-time than reverse full-time into back to a part-time model. So it's just a club being cautious, really. I think with the ground move, hopefully around the corner, things may change. And, when you move to new facilities, you'd hope for a bounce in crowds as well. But, it's just staying in the division, which I'm sure is probably Mark White's ambition as well, I guess, for Dorking as well. So it's hard. It's a tough league.
Yeah, I think the club and everybody associated with the club at Dorking would have just wanted some stability this year to sort of stay in that division and try and be in it. Yeah, because there's a real bottleneck. You
remind me as a club and as the playing staff and things like that. There's a couple of players I'd earmarked in your team in terms of people to look out for. The lads you signed from Bracknell, Bowerman, Fairly low.
Who didn't play?
We didn't play. And then Rutherford as well.
Both out injured, unfortunately.
I must admit, I took one look at the team sheet. Oh, that's handy. 2 players, but you've got plenty of quality there. But what I would say, I think coming up, you remind me of when we came up 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps not a club of household names. We all remember the Oldham owner saying Dorking who. I think
and where's that?
Joking around, but
yeah.
Rates teams, isn't it? Expected. Maybe even we expected one season. And that's not being, humble about things. It's it's a really tough standard. It's unforgiving. It's a 46 game season. Full-time teams with some real financial backing behind them. You remind me, with that effort and endeavour, and you're going to be absolutely fine. You're going to stay up this season, and hopefully we do the same, and we can enjoy some games in the years to come.
It was certainly it was nice to drive to your ground and not have to go too far. And I must admit that the early kickoff meant that I was back home and it wasn't too late or anything yesterday afternoon getting home. Because as you know, when you go from the south into the national, it really does exaggerate some of the distances you're travelling. We had Oldham early on, we've had Scunthorpe away, and some of these other grounds. We had Torquay was rearranged for a Wednesday night a few weeks ago, and we've got Halifax Tuesday away, which is at the fourth time, hopefully the fourth time lucky. So, sort of like
you will get those Tuesday night trips. We've got Altrincham in a couple of weeks as well on a Tuesday.
We did that one as well,
we've got, and I'm sure you'll have the same thing. So our captain, for instance, he's a tree surgeon.
Right.
So he's up until, when we get back from, and he part owns the business. So when we get back from Altrincham at, God knows what time o'clock, he'll be up at 6 and doing a very dangerous and demanding job. So, those trips are sort of part of the fun, aren't they? They maybe wears off a bit after a few years ago. But I don't think it will, actually. I still look at some of those games as real, like, cup ties. They're great to play Chesterfield and a Wrexham. It's good experience. And, it's... you're really up against some of those big clubs, big crowds in, and getting all the referees back. It's the underdog, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And
you feel your pain.
And I think because I sort of thought yesterday, because I thought defensively we were quite resilient yesterday, and we haven't always been that. And I saw some of your supporters saying, "Come on, this sort of conceded X amount of goals. Why haven't we scored more goals?" But I'd noticed because you don't sort of score many either anyway, do you really? You haven't got sort of a massive amount of sort of goals for tally this season. But I did think that we defended quite resolutely, and perhaps as early as maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago, we probably would have lost that game yesterday because we weren't as solid. The lad that played on the left side of our back three, Joe Cook, has come in on loan from Chesterfield. Walsh is on loan, the keeper from QPR, who made some really good saves, especially in the first half. He made a couple of really good saves, and he's only young as well. So we've had to sort of use the loan market and try and, because we were just conceding. I texted a friend of mine when we were 1-0 up yesterday saying we'd gone 1-0 up, and he said, well, we only need 3 more then because we were needing to sort of score 4 to try and win, because we've drawn a couple of games ridiculously. We've drawn a couple of games 3-3 this season.
Yeah, the Torquay game was one, wasn't it?
Yeah, Torquay, Woking, we drew 3-3 in both those games. Yeah. So I did think that defensively we were quite resolute yesterday, because it was lots of balls into the box, wasn't there? And you got long throws and things like that, and set pieces, the in-swinging corners from either side. I thought the guy that played on the right for you, but was a sort of like an inverted winger with the blonde hair, the one that hit the crossbar, had a really good left foot on him, and was cutting in on that left foot and opening things up. And as was the other guy on the left-hand side, Nathaniel George as well.
Yes.
He used to be at Crawley, didn't he? And
that's right. We've done well to find him. He was out of contract, and they had a look at him in kind of early season, and they've snapped him up, and he's done well. But I'd agree with what you say. I thought, I felt overall we a little disappointed we've not won the game. But from your point of view, as you say, you have defended resolutely, and pot shots against the crossbar, balls in and around the box. But I thought you defended great, and that's a good point that keeps you within spitting distance of us. You'll look at us as one of the teams to to finish above. Rightly so. I think you're absolutely right. I thought you did defend well. I thought Walsall would cut in as we started very slowly. In the last 20 minutes of the first half, we started to look a little better. That was a key save. I thought if we'd gone in at 1-1, I don't know. It could have made a bit of a difference. Maybe. Yeah,
definitely. Does the slope have much? Do the players speak about the slope after the matches, or Alan Devonshire himself, or anything, and they get used to it, or do you find it from opposition managers?
Were you surprised by the slope?
A little bit, because you just sort of don't see too many, do you? But you do go, some places, and you sort of see the side to side off Wealdstone off the top of my head, sort of goes side to side, doesn't it? And a few others as well, but from top to bottom like that, and certainly being at that bottom end first half and then walking round to the top end second half, you feel like you have gone uphill a little bit, just going round.
It's interesting for our players because they've just become used to it. So what Dev likes to do, he does like us to have a couple of pre-season friendlies at home, so any new players he brings in can get used to it. Now, there's always the argument about when we can get the pitch ready and all that kind of thing. That's always fun in games behind the scenes. It was interesting, though, because for the second home game running, the opposition have turned us around. So we actually like going up the hill in the second half.
Right.
So whether that was a conscious thing.
Maybe they knew that, Yeah,
possibly, and absolutely fair play, because supporters really, they like going behind the certain end in the second half as well.
We're a bit like that at our ground as well.
It actually makes the atmosphere more muted. So they used to kick in. They talk about the Bell Street end at the second half.
Towards those.
So and that sounds a silly thing to say, but I think it does make a difference, and I think our players are used to it, and we play to our strengths, and we can be direct, we can get the ball out wide. Sometimes when opposition teams come their first visit, they're a bit like, hang on, where the hell are we here? Not so much yourselves, because you've come up through the divisions.
Played on pitches like that,
Exactly. I don't think there's any snobbishness. I don't think it's even snobbishness. I think it's I think from some of the bigger clubs, they're just not used to it, are they?
No, they're not.
One of the ones that sticks in my head was the first season we're in this league, Tranmere Rovers. They were pre-season favourites to win it. We'd just come up. We played them in September. It peaked down with rain. The supporters got wet. We won it 1-0 with a goal. The players, when they turned up, they're almost mentally 1-0 down when they look at the change rooms are tiny. Facilities and stuff early. You're very polite.
Right.
It's a ground. We haven't had a Conference South ground. So we do have to play to those strengths at home. But we've been in the division a few years now, and I think people kind of know what we're all about a little bit more. So it's more of a level playing field. Yeah,
sure. And you've hosted a couple of FA Cup first round games as well, haven't you, at home against? I just saw against Coventry and
Coventry was away. We played away at home. And Rotherham, Port Vale. We just haven't got quality in those games, really. They were all against League One sides at the time. We did well in them. We started well and got to the match. Portsmouth were flying at the top of League One at the time. They've gone off the ball a little bit since then, but they were flying, looked destined for promotion. They didn't manage it. They battered us. But we've had some first round ties, but we've not been past the first round for 40 odd years. So bit of a sore point, really.
No, same with us. We've never had an FA Cup run at all. No.
Really? What's the furthest you've got?
Well, the furthest we've got is where we came in at this year, the first round and then we got drawn against Eastleigh, and we were 1-0 up against them at half time, and we lost 3-1. So we're out.
A horror draw.
So
nothing against Eastleigh.
Same division, absolutely. And you
don't want to play a team.
we've never had that kind of recognition or spotlight come to us in terms of a live game or do the draw from Dorking or anything like that, because
it'll come round though.
Eventually it might do. You hope so. I mean, and even the FA Trophy this year, we got Yeovil away a week before Christmas. So
you've had that jinx twice. Then that's what you don't want, is it?
No. Mark was Mark was hoping we would maybe just get a home game for that, because we do have between now and Christmas we do have a few away games coming up, a few away games. We've got Halifax, and then we've got Chesterfield, and then we've got Maidstone at home.
Yeah.
And then we're into that. Then we've got Yeovil, and then we've got Eastleigh over Christmas and New Year, where we've got them home and away. And then we're back into that cycle of second game against everybody. It's amazing how quickly it's gone. It feels like, where
scary, isn't it?
Maidenhead and Halifax Tuesday are the kind of last two to really sort of tick off, and then it's the Eastleigh fixtures over Christmas. But we have actually already played them in the cup, and then it's in the new year. It's back to Oldham at home, and it only feels like 5 minutes ago we went up there for the first away game of the season. When they did have when the new owner had just come in, so it has gone quick. Yeah,
it's not gone well for them since, though, is it? So they're
it hasn't. No,
I think that's a big club, isn't it? This level,
yeah, very, very.
We drew with them at home. We probably should have won that game as well.
Right.
You'd expect these bigger clubs to have a bit of them and Scunthorpe at the bottom. You'd expect, blimey, surely they can't go down again. But being selfish here, we need to finish above 14. That really came with like you say, it's now you've got a bit more under your belts what some of those teams are about. They'll also know you a little better as well. I always find with the Christmas game, the New Year game, that's tough, because playing the same team twice. There's players that are going to remember who put stuff on. Aren't there? Grudges over 6 days or whatever. They're two tough matches. Decent.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they beat us in the cup. We were 1-0 up at half time, and then they came out and blew us away in the second half, and just showed that the teams can do that in this division when you're playing against teams from the same league. Yeah. So, what are your hopes for the rest of the season then, Neil, for Maidenhead to stay in the league and take some scalps on the way, kind of like us, really?
Absolutely. Yeah. Probably similar. I think Dev wants 50 points. 28 now.
Yeah.
7.5 wins in the second half of the season. And it sounds really earnest, doesn't it? It sounds like being really, humble about it. But it is, and I'm sure it's the same for you guys as well. Let's get to those 50 points. We love being in this league. Now, I'm sure you've enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, massively.
It's great.
Yeah.
Some days are difficult, but we love being in this league and staying in there. The FA Trophy, we've got Hemel away, south side, so we know them relatively well. Yeah, we've had them looked at, as they always do.
Got a couple of players that used to play for them, haven't you? I think anyway, you've got somebody that used to play for them in your side?
Well, us from Hemel.
Yeah.
Yes, we have. You're absolutely right. Yes, Cole, who played left back for.
That's right.
Yesterday is. Yes, right. He is from Hemel. We've exchanged players a little bit with them in the past. Yeah. It's a relatively local one.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
To. Our game, it will be decided on the day, which is always a bit more jeopardy, isn't there? But it would be lovely to have a run in that. We've seen. I've got a mate who's a Bromley fan. They won it last year.
Yeah.
Bit
of money as well, isn't it?
Club.
And finances.
Absolutely. We're a good club. Maybe not loads bigger, maybe than we are. Yeah. So, if they can do it and have a run, that would be great. But I would settle for boring old 50-odd points and do it again next year, So, play yourselves again, hopefully, and some of these great clubs that we come up against.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what we're all looking forward to as well, staying in the league. I looked again earlier, actually. I think we are above York now after the result, even though they got... But we're obviously, of the newly promoted clubs, we're the one that are the highest in the league, from ourselves, Maidstone, Gateshead and York, and that was with a relatively short pre-season as well, and trying to get players in because the playoffs, no sooner had we won that playoff that it seemed to be back to pre-season. And as you know yourself, being a part-time team, it's quite difficult to bring players in, isn't it? Because you can't offer them full-time football. So the scope isn't there necessarily to just go and pick and choose people that are out of contract or looking to move on from other clubs, because you can't offer them that.
Yeah, it's a smaller pool, isn't it, you're picking from? And, also you're unlikely to tempt someone from the other end of the country down to play for you because you can't make it worth their while. So you're literally looking in a small pool, in a small geographical pool. But it is what it is, isn't it? And Mark White would have known that, but beforehand he's worked a similar sort of circuit, I guess. So, it is what it is. It's which of the big boys have you still got to go away to? You've got to go to Wrexham still, haven't you?
Chesterfield, Wrexham and Notts County. Yeah, Chesterfield,
just the
Wrexham.
big three then.
Yeah, just those three. Yeah, those three. We've still got to go to. So we've also played Solihull away. But yeah, I mean, those three just instantly roll off. We've got Chesterfield next Saturday on the 10th. I can't make that one. But then Wrexham and Notts County in the new year, which will be popular trips for people to go to on supporters, coaches. And the club have done a sort of a deal with us. All our supporters, coaches for all away games are just capped at £20 now. So
brilliant.
Yeah, so they were different prices, but now they're £20 no matter where we're going. So unfortunately, there isn't one running for Gateshead, but all the other ones, that's in January. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, January.
That's the one you definitely want that on.
That's the one that the team and everything are flying up to.
Yeah, you don't want that one being called off, do you?
And then end up on a Tuesday night or something.
No. You going up to that one?
I'm not sure yet. I might try and get up to that one, but the other ones, I mean, I've only missed a couple of games all season so far. There's lots of good grounds and lots of good games to go to. And I think Maidenhead fans have felt this as well. But it's been friendly being in this league, being relatively new. It's been, I think opposition fans are a little bit intrigued by us, this club that have come up and read a little bit about us or found out a little bit about us and seem to sort of think it's quite an interesting story because despite what people will try and say and on social media and things, we don't have a rich sugar daddy and stuff. So much of it is done through local sponsors, local people putting money in and things like that. Yeah, and just look at clubs like Southend, look at Scunthorpe. They're in. I read today, so all of Southend Academy's matches have been called off today because the coaches and everybody hasn't been paid. And Scunthorpe as well. You've got people that aren't being paid at these clubs, these chairmen.
It's not great, is it? Because they're biggish clubs. They played in the Championship. Yeah, for those. And I don't want to speak ill of other clubs. We've got enough to worry about here. But what's going on where you can't afford to pay people? That's a terrible situation. And yourselves and Maidenhead as well, or yourselves on the face of things. I can't speak for other clubs, but certainly ourselves as well. We pay our way, and we live within our means, and the long term future of the club's the main thing, isn't it? You've got the club in 50, 100 years. Yeah. There's no point sort of sailing off with big ambitions and then crashing and burning.
No, not at all. No, it means so much to so many people. It's not a plaything for the fans and the people that go week in, week out and spend their monay there.
It was good. It was a great away support yesterday. We noticed everyone sort of turned up in red and white colours. Good numbers. Local support. It was great, and doing that deal with the coach travel is going to encourage the next generation of supporters, isn't it? So,
very much so.
A win.
Yeah, I mean, for those ones in the new year, Wrexham, Notts County, you'd expect that the coaches would be pretty much full for those, and lots of people make their own way as well and drive up. I drove across yesterday, and people came on the train, and it's good, and we've got that because of our sort of thing with bunch of amateurs and everything that we have. People want to come on along and watch and have a photograph with Mark and things like that as well, and sort of watch the club that they've sort of seen on YouTube, so sort of see it for real. So, but it was good yesterday. It's a good turnout of supporters that were there. Which was good. Yeah, and generally that's always the way, and whether we lose 5-0 or we win or whatever, we stand there and clap the players off at the end and stuff, and we're kind of all in it together. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of mentality where you're sort of all in it together. And if they've lost and stuff, they do genuinely look disappointed when they come over, almost a bit like sorry that we weren't better for you today, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
It's important. I think that's really important. That togetherness. I think when you haven't got, the advantages that some other clubs have got, and again, no disrespect to them, that kind of thing's important. That unity.
Yeah.
I think we have it pretty well here. We're a few seasons down the line now, so if there'll be a few grumbles. You heard perhaps people saying, "Why aren't we beating this team?" Because you said earlier, conceding lots of goals.
Yeah.
We've got no divine right to roll up and expect to beat anyone in this league. So that will really stand you in good stead. That kind of that close relationship that will be worth a few points, I think.
Yeah, no, it's good, and I kind of really enjoyed this season. Just coming in and seeing a lot of it with fresh eyes because it's all new. Other than Maidstone, who we came up with, and we played against Bromley, and we played Bromley, Barnet, and Southend before in FA trophies and things like that. But this is all now in the same division, so it's
and then towards the end of the season, because I'm absolutely certain you're going to be fine. It's easy for me to say that and that here, but I think you'll get before you. You've beaten Notts County, and I thought York were decent. They won here, so I know they've had a bad run recently, but they'll be well backed.
Yeah.
So they're clubs that you've sort of mixed it with and done very well against. So credit. I think you're going to be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Then a few years down the line, you'll get some people moaning when you're not beaten. Such and such, and some football supporters are fickle in a way, but also loyal to the core, and they want to do well, don't they? They want to be entertained, but they want a result as well. It's results business, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, it was really, really interesting to speak to you, Neil. Thanks so much for giving up your Sunday evening. No so you're coming to, I think your game with us isn't until March of next year, actually, is it? At Meadowbank?
That's right. I'm looking forward to it. It's a new ground for me. Some of our longer-term supporters can remember Dorking FC playing at Meadowbank, and we're aware of the history. I'm told it's a really nice ground, a really nice
same site. Yeah.
So looking forward to that. As you've got that enjoyable bit of ground hopping to do where you're ticking off your Chesterfields and your Wrexhams. I've ticked them a few times now, but Meadowbank will be new for me in the new year, as will York as well, their new ground. So there's always something to look forward to. I'm always
definitely. And hopefully by the time, I'm not sure of the exact date, but hopefully by the time you come to ours, because we're redeveloping the away end because it's just flat standing at the moment. So sort of put a bit of terracing in there and a cover and everything so that people can actually see, because the club's just grown so quick that the ground hasn't been able to keep up, and it's flat standing, so you have to get there early to be able to see.
Well, I'm all right. I'm 6
unless you're really
plus,
tall,
so
unless you're tall,
I'll go at the back. And
you'll be fine.
It is what it is, James. I'd go to a lot of grounds. I'm not going to turn. We're not. I don't think a fan base. It turns out no, but places because we're fairly modest out here, so it's we haven't got a lot to crow about. In fact, I think it's quite funny when you read through a Twitter timeline after games for the bigger clubs saying, blimey, what a place that was. And, I don't think there's any snobbery from us in that way, I'm sure.
No, definitely not.
Well, isn't it? So, nice local trip. That'll do me nicely.
Yeah, perfect. No, I really appreciate that. Well, I wish you all the best for the rest of the season, Neil.
Thank you.
Big game next Saturday. Obviously, I hope it all goes all well off the pitch as well as on it as well.
Yeah, we've played Notts a few times now. Yeah, we've played them a few times now. They bring good support down, no issues. They're passionate supporters. We will segregate that one. I'm sure it will go without a hitch. Their form terrifies me. But I'll worry. I'll worry about that next week, Dave.
Worry about that. See if you can kick uphill first half and second half.
Yeah, possibly. The players do prefer it. So see what we can negotiate. Indeed.
Brilliant.
Any advantage we can get.
Yeah. Thank you so much for giving up your Sunday evening, mate.
Right. So after hearing from Neil at Maidenhead, we're back here now, and we've got... Do you want to introduce yourselves, ladies?
I'm Lou Cooper, manager of Dorking.
Yeah.
I'm Cindy Colliver. I'm the centre back at Dorking.
Right, nice to meet you both. So we've had some questions. We'll get to them in a bit. But Lou, tell us about your journey to becoming Dorking Wanderers Ladies manager.
So it was a few years ago. I'd stopped playing and met up with a guy called Will, who was at Mole Valley, and we were there for a season or two. And they've got a big youth set up, and it was their first time in adults football. And then we decided to become Dorking because of what Dorking can offer us. And then I took a slight back seat when we first came over to Dorking.
Yep.
Will was the manager, and then Cat Brown became the manager, and I was just the goalkeeping coach.
Just
the goalkeeping coach, yeah. And because I was a player and a goalkeeper for many years, and did that, and then obviously the back end of last year was offered the role as the ladies manager.
Yep.
And been doing that since, so not quite a year yet.
So sorry, so that was your first managerial job then?
I did do the Surrey County Ladies, but they were just sort of ad hoc games, probably about sort of 6 or 7 seasons some years back. But I was quite late in finishing playing football. So although I'd got my badges, I'm a UEFA coach, I was still playing, so didn't manage. And then I became player manager at Sutton, and then looked after the development. So I was the manager of development at Sutton, and then Mole Valley.
Oh, right.
And then Dorking was the first sort of big role for me on my own. Obviously, I've got an assistant and a head coach there, but that was for me my first role.
Okay, thank you.
And you got your badges as well?
Yeah, got my UEFA B badge about 6 years ago.
You just got to keep topping it up.
Well, possibly one day go for my A licence, but obviously it takes a lot of when you're working full time you're coaching, Sundays and obviously Tuesdays and Thursdays. It takes a lot of time up. So if you're going to do a badge as well, it's
I'm gonna be UEFA licence, but I haven't. That was years ago. But I don't know whether you have to keep topping it up to keep that standard, do you or not?
So you have to do sort of CPD sort of courses, which are really helpful. I mean, the Surrey FA run them.
Yeah.
So it's really good to sort of refresh your memory on certain things. But obviously the next step would be an A licence.
Yeah. You don't really need that, I think.
No, not really. Not at this, obviously.
So it's not
tier.
a requirement then? It's not a mandatory
requirement? No, not at all. I mean, there are managers and coaches that are in, the tier above, and actually even 2 tiers above that are the level 2, which is one below the UEFA B. So you don't necessarily need it, but obviously, it's good to have as much knowledge as you can, and that's why the CPD courses are really important.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so thank you. Cindy?
Yeah.
So your background into getting to Dorking?
So I've been playing since I was a kid, basically. And then I worked with Kerry and Lou at Sutton, which is my previous club. But I've played for other teams like AFC Wimbledon, Tooting and Mitcham, and kind of like highest tier 5 is where I played before. And I was captain at Sutton last year. We've got promoted. But from my perspective, I needed a change just because of where I was in my own space. So I reached out to Kerry and was like, do you need a new defender? And then, I kind of come down and joined from there.
Yeah.
But we played against Dorking last year, so I kind of saw the setup, saw what they were about and stuff.
So did you join Dorking at the start of this season?
Yes, start of this season.
So are you the graphic designer as well?
I am a graphic designer.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, so that is your other job that you do?
My full-time job. My real life job.
Yeah, I see that. I did have a little look up, like graphic designer. So your own business, isn't it?
No, so I do that. I work for Transport for London.
Oh, I did Transport. Yeah. So obviously you're busy, or you're on strike?
No. Never on strike, me. But if they decide to rock up, then I'll do some work.
Yeah, they're busy. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's brilliant, isn't it? And at least that takes a bit different to football, obviously.
It
takes you away, and you're doing something else, obviously, and that clears your mind a little bit. You feel?
Yeah, I mean, football can be quite full on, especially when results don't go your way at the weekend or whatever, and then it kind of changes up. You only still get the Monday morning blues if it doesn't go to on Sunday, but a bit of a distraction to kind of get yourself back going again.
How was it on Monday today after drawing 0-0 with Whiteley? That's a shocker, isn't it? Bottom of the league.
I didn't go out the front door today, to be honest with you. The poor postman got it.
The postman got it. You haven't got a dog, but you beat him.
Yeah, you hit it absolutely, bang on. It didn't go our way. Whatever we tried, we just couldn't break them down. And that's football. Sometimes results don't always go your way. It's just how you reflect and learn from it and move on. Yeah. We're still in a great position, but as we spoke about it yesterday, teams are to take points off us. That's what they're going to do. That's for them.
Well, they're fighting, aren't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. And any they've seen obviously the documentary. They've seen what we're about at Dorking. They've seen what direction we're going in, and for them to actually take any team to take a point of us, or even to sort of keep the score down in certain games, that's a big result for them. And we know when we played a Tier 4 side, Chelsea, a week or two, or about a month or two ago now, in the FA Cup, we lost the game by 1, but it was a massive result for us. So we can understand how teams in our league are doing exactly the same thing, because you get that reward. But like I said, you have to sort of reflect. I mean, we had a few injuries on the day yesterday. We had 2 players pull out last minute, just due to circumstances. Right. So that happens in football. I'm sure it happens to the other teams.
Where do they play? At Church, down Church Lane still, on that horrible 3G? Horrible 3G,
it was a difficult pitch, And I'm
not blaming the pitch, I'm just saying.
No, we can blame everything, to be honest with you. It just didn't go our way, and decisions didn't go our way. As I said, that's football. Yeah. You have to just take it on the chin and move on.
Yeah, definitely. You're still in a good position, though, aren't you?
Absolutely. And we weren't...
Games in hand.
We're not naive enough to think that we're going to go throughout the whole season and not drop points. Yeah. It's just how you reflect on that and how you move on. And, if mistakes were made, correct them.
And didn't lose.
Absolutely. I mean,
sometimes we were just saying, weren't we, about the men's game on Saturday. Sometimes it's just about, at the end of the season, if you can look back and reflect on that and think, actually, circumstances, it wasn't such a bad point. People have dropped out and things didn't run our way. On another day, something could have gone wrong for us at the other end of the pitch, because, somebody could have shinned one in or scuffed one in off a corner or something, and you've ended up conceding and ended up losing the game. So you haven't lost and you come away with a point. So,
and that's happened. I mean, that's happened to us before, where, we've completely dominated and probably had about 30 shots on target, and then teams are still in it, and then they go up the other end and they just make a chance out of nothing, and then they score. That just happens. It's frustrating, but it happens. Yeah. As you say, it's when you sort of learn to, take the point or go on and try and win the game. Yeah.
Before we sort of talk about that a little bit more then, so Lou, obviously you've got quite a good pedigree in football, haven't you? Won the FA Cup.
Not bad. Yeah, FA Cup and,
that's about that.
And league, actually.
How did you get into playing then, and how different was that for you growing up to it is for now for girls to access football and that sort of thing now, and having those opportunities that girls do now?
I wasn't allowed to play at school, so I kind of played in the sort of younger ages, sort of the first school under 12s. I sort of played for the boys' football team, but I had to play netball. I was told I had to play netball first. So I'd end up playing sort of netball at the front of the school, and then because obviously that's a shorter game, and then I used to run around the back, and then they used to sort of pull up a boy for me to go on and play it for the school football team. And then when I left there, my senior school was an all-girls school, which of course you play everything but football. It was tennis and lacrosse. So I had to go and join you're thinking of me playing lacrosse now, aren't you? So I sort of joined my dad found a local team in Sutton, actually, called the Sutton Hammers, and just played for them. And I was actually right wing, which I think people probably find quite hilarious now. And then just one day, I was playing there for a few seasons, and then just one day our goalkeeper just didn't turn up. So I just thought, I'll go in goal. And it just so happened that someone from AFC was just watching.
Wow.
Came up to me after the game and said, you show real promise.
And how old were you then?
I was quite late to go in goal. So I must have been about, I reckon, 20, probably 19, 20.
Late,
And I started 14. So I've been playing like 5 seasons. And then I went and played for my first stint at AFC Wimbledon. I had like four times there, actually.
Yeah.
And Marianne Spacey was playing.
Yeah.
So obviously, she's now managing Southampton and probably one of the best female footballers.
Some of the players that you played with were some of those real trailblazers.
But that was when we get to Croydon.
Hope now and people like that.
Yeah, but that was later on. I was at Wimbledon, and then I got a call from Debbie Bampton at Croydon, who was sort of getting this Croydon team together.
Yeah.
That was off the back of, I think it was... it will come to me later on, but anyway, Debbie was sort of getting this team. Hope Howe and Brenda Sempari was already there, and sort of got a few players from all over, a few from Southampton, and we sort of just turned up on the first training day, and we just all just clicked. And then that season we got promoted, and then it was the following year that we won the league, the FA Cup, and the league double. But it was certainly, quite a privilege to play in that team. It was just, everyone was just had cap after cap.
England international.
It was just, and England, our player manager was the England manager. And
was that an honour that ever kind of came your way, or was there anything that you ever get looked at or mentioned about being called up for any of the England squads or anything like that? Or?
I did get called up for the squads.
Right.
I was at the training camps. I think there was sort of a few years where I was just at training camps. Unfortunately, never got a cap. I came close, very, very close one day. There was an illness in the camp, and I was told that I'd be playing possibly, obviously, because the number 1 and the number 2 for various different reasons.
You're cooking.
Yeah, probably. The Sanyagate. So I did come so close, but didn't. I think Spain. It was Spain, actually, at home. So so close, but still, it was just a privilege to be in that Croydon team, and the experience that you get with camps, because you've got such good coaches. Obviously, playing in teams that week in, week out, they brought back to the club. So what I learned off people like Hope Powell and Debbie Bampton, and having a defence in front of me that just constantly learning. And then I went to Millwall, and again they had Jim Hicks, who was such a good coach as well. So I learned a lot in my days of playing football, and had some good times there.
Definitely, good experience.
And how does that route that you had then compare with how you get into football now? Then,
I'm one of the older players at Dorking, so it's not too dissimilar from Lou. I was able to play at school. There wasn't that much in terms of girls football. Like, there'd be like mixed teams where you could join in with the boys, but it wasn't really a thing. I started playing at Little League when I was 6, and it was mainly like one of my mum's things to try and get me out and talk to people. I was a bit shy when I was a kid. So I kind of did that from 6 to about 12, and then I got spotted playing at Little League for Wimbledon before they moved to Milton Keynes. And then kind of joined their Centre of Excellences. It was there until I was like 15, 16 when they went to. And they actually transitioned and left, and I was like, I can't travel to Milton Keynes, it's a bit far. And then I kind of stopped playing for a few years, and then when I was at uni, I was working for Fulham coaching. And one of the girls I was coaching with was like, you should come join my Sunday league team, kind of see how it goes. So I was playing for a team called Seven Town, who don't exist anymore. But from there, I then went to Tooting and Mitcham and kind of started going up through the leagues with them. Then they disbanded, joined Carl Shorten. For a few years was there, then left there and went to AFC Wimbledon, where we won a league, tier 5. Yes, that's the one that we're looking to get promoted into. Won that, then kind of fell out of favour with my manager, so I looked for a new club.
You won't name names.
When the camera goes off.
I'll tell you later. And then went back to Carl Shorten from there. and then moved across to Sutton.
Yeah.
I was there for 4 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Captain for 3 of them, and then like last year.
Are you going for your badges? Have you done badges?
So I did my level 1 a few years ago, and then just after like work, uni finished, starting work, it kind of fell apart, and then just kind of time with working and playing, it just doesn't really fit in.
Yeah.
But no, it's good to coach. I think more people should do that.
So the routes into it, even from your experience, so there's more, isn't there? It's out there.
I mean, now it's insane. Like the options for someone, like you kind of look at it a little bit like envious. You're like, oh, these 16, 17-year-olds have got like so much, and even younger than that, so much options, and there's so much more funding in it now.
Yeah. And the facilities as well with 3G and things like that, and being able to go and do that.
And clubs are taking it seriously.
Yeah.
So they're getting like the input from the clubs. Like Dorking's great in the work, like the way we're supported from like Mark and the main club. Yeah. But yeah, they're proper promoting girls and women's football.
Yeah.
It's great.
But Lou, do you find out when the girls are doing their badges now, some can be questioning why you're doing things, or maybe not your ladies, the women in your team, but you can find definitely in the man's football, everybody's like PT or they're doing their levels. You start coaching and they say, well, why are we doing this and what are we doing this for? I don't know if you do get that in your game.
Yeah, we do actually, because you get taught to coach in a certain way. So so when you do coach, you do get people sort of go, oh, why are we doing this, or why are we stopping here? What because you're trying to say, well, this is how we learn. This is the way, and that's why it's really important to do the CPDs, because coaching changes all the time. I mean, when I did mine, I think 5-6 years ago, there was four ladies on the course. Kat being one of them, who's the previous manager. Debbie, who's being really successful with the youth at Dorking, and then Sam, who is at Fulham, and myself. So all become coaches. Still, but you're coaching. You're on the course, and you're with men that are still playing. So you're actually coaching. I've always coached women, but then for your assessment, you're coaching men. And sometimes that can be quite an eye opener, because you're not used to, especially nowadays. I think it's quite women are accepted as coaches, but you do find it. I mean, when we go and watch football and you're sort of talking about football, you used to get people looking, going, oh, because you're talking like anybody else talks at football, because know thing about football. People just, it's quite.
I was going to ask you that. So, like the sort of like the stigmas and things like that are attached to it. How has that changed over since you first started to play football to now? Hopefully, those lazy stereotypes, all those sort of things, are they slowly going, or are you still experiencing them? Even when you're coaching, even when you're managing, even when you're on the sidelines at games, sometimes hear those sort of throwaway comments from people walking past or anything like that sort of thing.
No one ever thinks that I'm the manager and Kerry obviously is an assistant. It's always, I mean, we've got our head coach.
So Martin.
And it's always, if people don't know us, I mean, obviously this is our second season in this league that people get to know you. But even so, if they don't know you, they will go up naturally to Martin.
Okay.
And I think I've just been in football for so long that I don't take that personally. It just goes over my head, because just think, it's just one of those things. I know there are some people that, do get a bit sort of annoyed by it, but it happens, and it's not just in football, is it? It's anywhere. Predominantly if it's a male orientated or
the
female
business or whatever.
Absolutely.
If a man standing and all ladies staying there, they'll probably go to the man first.
Absolutely. It's just what we have to sort of deal with. It's just how it is. But it has changed, and it's there are more female coaches, which is good, because I think what's good, we've got a good setup, with females and male coaches, and we've all spoken between the three of us, have said that one's got a particular area that they're good at, and then skill set, I've been a footballer, So I can relate to players in another way.
Yeah.
I can understand how they want to be approached and how they want to be spoken to.
Yeah.
So it's a good mix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think a woman manager could manage a man's team, like in the Premier League, in the Champions League, anything? Because a woman has a much better manner, or most women do, back manner about them. That walk into a changing room, you can talk. I don't know. I just don't know. I just like, look, I'm a little bit of a dinosaur, I must admit, but I do believe women and men are different, obviously. And the woman has got might have a softer way about her. I don't know.
I mean, from my perspective, like having been coached by men and women,
Yeah.
you do get a difference. And I know like some of my previous managers that are male, they haven't necessarily known how to interact and communicate with us as a squad.
Yeah.
And maybe they've even acknowledged that themselves, and that the way that they would do that in a men's change room is different to how you do it in a women's change room. But I think if you look at like coaches like Emma Hayes, who's an amazing job at Chelsea, like I don't see why she shouldn't be considered for those sort of situations, like in a men's game. I don't see why it can't happen.
And I think ultimately it comes down to those things are they're brilliant. That's that man management kind of side of things, just to use that phrase. But ultimately it's about your knowledge and your football knowledge and things like that, isn't it? Whether that's being delivered by a man or a female, whether it's words on a computer screen and the voice has been changed and you would never know, and it was completely gender neutral and you didn't know who'd done that or said that. So I think a lot of it would come down to that person's knowledge. People like Emma Hayes and that, their knowledge is second to none, isn't it? And you can imagine that people would probably think, actually, do you know what, I'd quite like to be managed by somebody like that because their knowledge is so good and they know so much about the game, played the game and have so much respect as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's probably because it's been harder to get into the game, it's probably they've done more homework and they've had to study more and they've probably done more games, they've done more hours. I think the only thing that goes against women managers is that probably they've sort of wouldn't be accepted by everybody in that team. I know that if you're a woman manager, especially if people know you or they respect you as a player, which is obviously certainly the case with people like Mary-Anne Spacey, who in my opinion is probably one of the best female footballers that have ever been. Straight away they respect her, and then you can just build on that. If you go into a men's game, would you necessarily know the pedigree of that manager? But I think as Cindy says, what Emma Hayes, people probably don't realise what she's done in football in terms of not just at Chelsea, but just in previously abroad. And she's had to she was assistant at Arsenal, and she's had to sort of learn from the bottom upwards. But certainly if there's a job going at Tottenham with Conte, call me. I'm quite happy to sit by his side.
Would you take your assistant with you though, Lou?
I'd have to. Being a fellow season ticket holder at Tottenham.
Well, she could hold your makeup back.
Part of the contract.
We could sit either side of Mr. Conte and sort of
well, let's just
give
hope
him some tips. That
your chairman doesn't watch this then. They're angling for a move, aren't they?
If the chairman's watching, I'll do it free.
Looking to go.
I'm going to throw a little spanner in the works here. Right. Do you feel like the women that are going on the men's game, like Alex Scott and the other ladies, do you think they should be spending their more time concentrating on the women's football, like TV programs, and pushing the women's more than? I know it's all about the buck. I appreciate that, and they got to earn a living. But do you think they should be doing they might be doing more for women's football? I don't know, because obviously, but do you think they should be doing more for ladies' football in the day rather than just taking the pound note and going onto men's football?
I think they're doing a bit of both, aren't they? I
Yeah.
think, like, especially Alex Scott, like she's presenting Football Focus on the BBC, so she's kind of doing the men's game, and then programs like that are starting to show more about the Women's Super League and the women's game. So I think it's more once they get the respect within their role, then people maybe listen to them more. So if she then starts talking about women's football, maybe people listen.
Yeah.
And then with the Lionesses doing one as well, I know a few more men know who some of the players are and kind of they have that knowledge.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah, and I think there's always this thing about women. Why don't there was a thing on Twitter the other day about the referees. There was three.
In the World Cup.
In the World Cup, and the comments were like, "Well, why don't they stick to women's football? Because the men don't go in the women's game." And I think these are comments that they obviously don't watch that, because we've had years of. I mean, we had men officials yesterday. I mean, it's very, very rare that you get a female official. Very rare. I mean, I can't ever think of the last game that we had a female official. So you've got if the men are allowed in our game, then the women should be allowed in the men's game. I think it's if you're good enough, you're there. And someone like Alex Scott has spent her whole career in women's football. So why shouldn't she now be given the chance to go into the men's game and be a commentator? I mean, there's some great commentators. I mean, Sue Smith on Sky Sports is fantastic, and Rachel Brown does it, and I mean, there's a few others as well that are just are really good. Yeah, they are, and they're there on merit. They're there because they've got a great knowledge of football, and they've been around the game
because they've been in that game for such a long time. They've got 140 England caps and things like that.
Absolutely, and you get men's commentators that, if we're all honest, sometimes we do turn the telly down and just make our own commentary up.
Absolutely. Not mine. I hope I do with Dorking.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's funny what you said there about the officials, because we've had female officials in the National League, haven't we? In the South, I think that was last year. There was a female ref, and we've certainly had assistant referees female, and obviously we've got Izzy, haven't we, as a physio
physios
at the club, and I think we've gone hopefully past that stage where that's becoming a sort of like a novelty, and people around start, wolf whistling and things like that.
Still get that point though, like
no one's wolf whistled at me.
Some people don't mind it, do they?
You do that as I go out.
We did it when you come in.
Yeah.
We've got some questions. David London has asked a question. Bit more towards you, I guess, Lou. The signing of Sherelle this season was a massive statement of intent by the club. Do you plan to sign any more sort of top-level players like that in the near future, or do you think there's enough quality in the squad to win promotion? That's the first part of his question. So obviously that was quite a big coup, getting somebody to come down from that.
Yeah, I mean, we were pleased with the players that we brought in. I mean, obviously Cindy was the captain of Sutton, which was big for us to sign her. We also got Gemma Shepherd, who I've known. I was actually a manager at the county level. She's played at West Ham and Charlton, so she's been a big asset. Obviously Katie Butts, a few months, 5 weeks ago, we signed her as well. Again, has played in a higher tier. To forget someone, and someone's going to listen to this and say, "Why haven't you mentioned me?"
So why have they dropped down? What is the reason they've dropped down? Is it because of the project that's there? I know it's
definitely. I think people see long term. They see, okay, we are in tier 6 now, but they see the potential. I mean, the facilities we've got are unbelievable. I mean, I didn't even have the facilities that we've got when I was playing in the Prem. Or it wasn't called the Prem in them days, but I mean. The facilities obviously at Meadowbank are brilliant. You've got the staff, and we've got 2 physios now. Strength and conditioning. We've got obviously coaches. We just brought in another coach last week.
Lady?
UEFA B, who was our captain last year.
Do you think your sort of connections and your contacts and stuff like that help as well, Lou, and your knowledge and that kind of thing where people think, I know Lou, I know Kerry, I know Martin, or people like that, I want to go and play for them?
Yeah,
so
I mean, I think
that definitely help with you, and that kind of adds to that appeal, as well as the club being forward thinking and things like that as well. Because just to equate that to the men's team, we've had people like Barry Fuller and stuff, and people might think, why have they gone there? But they've gone because of facilities and because of the draw of wanting to be at a club that's moving forward on and off the pitch, like Dorking, and people like Mark as well. So is that similar sort of thing with you, do you think, and for the players that have come in as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'd known Katie for a while. and obviously Gemma, and obviously Cindy we'd played against. And sort of when we played home and away, we thought
rather have her on your team than playing against.
We'll target her. So there are. I mean, there are players that obviously have been coached by myself and Kerry. That know what we're about and have come across. But there also are people that have seen the facilities. Obviously. We've had a lot of interest in the last sort of month, 6 weeks since the documentary. But then you've just got to kind of work out that who's going to be good for the squad.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, obviously
doing it for the right reasons. And things like that. Yeah.
And people move on in squads. People get injured. We haven't got a massive squad, so we're always looking out to sort of add, one or two players. But they've got to be right for the team. They've got to be. They've got to fit in. We've got, everyone gets on so well that it's got to be someone that's here for the right reasons and that wants to play for Dorking and not because of any particular other reason. Well, exactly.
Carson Tower come down.
Absolutely, exactly.
You get that. I suppose you have to sort of have that thought in the back of your head when people turn up, don't you? Are they coming here because they want to play and they're actually invested in this, or are they coming down here for the wrong reasons?
Absolutely.
The Callum.
David asked another question as well. So the fixture list feels quite imbalanced. Most games so far have been played at home. Do you think having a majority of away games on the run into the end of the season would be a handicap for the team? I think that makes much of a difference.
Well, it can go one of two ways, obviously, because it's good to get. I mean, we've got games in hand. I think we've played the less.
Played 7.
Than anybody else. So we've got games in hand. So we're in a position that we haven't got the points on the board, and we've got games in hand, and those games predominantly are away. So yes, I suppose one could say we are. I mean, our home form is exceptional. And we back end of the season, obviously, will the pressure be on us because we've got to win after win. But then if you've got home games and you've got, those points, we've won every game at home, we've obviously got those points on the board. So it can go one of two ways. You don't know. I mean, like I said, with with squads and how women's football works, you don't. Sometimes you get a different team when you play away. We've noticed that, especially in our tier, you don't tend to get the same team away from home as you do home because a lot of people don't travel.
If you've got, get to and stuff.
If people have got commitments, and they're playing at home in sort of Dulwich or whatever it is, and they can't travel away all to Dorking because they can't have sort of 7 hours out of the day. They might not choose to go to that away game, and that sometimes can be difficult because you don't always know. You try and do your homework on teams, and you get a completely different team, like we proved yesterday.
Is that what happened yesterday?
Well, I mean,
some people there they've not seen before.
They just signed a goalkeeper that. Absolutely had an outstanding game. I just thought, where have you got her from? She was just outstanding.
The Super League at the weekend.
It was just literally just save after save after save. I thought this is just getting beyond a joke. I mean,
you don't have games every week either, do you?
We do have games every Sunday. Every Sunday,
it looked like there was quite big gaps in some of the fixtures on the.
We don't play over Christmas, which is different to the men's football.
Yeah.
But we do tend to have games every week.
Okay.
But, I mean, going back to...
Because there's not many teams in the league, are there?
And no cup runs as well. So we win a few cups. If you get knocked out, then there's gaps.
Sure.
But going back to yesterday's game is a prime example. They just signed three or four new players literally that week.
So is it just
especially for us?
It is at the sort of like the county levels and stuff where you just put an approach in for a player and get them registered and then they can play?
Yes, I mean you can actually sign someone on a Friday and they play on a Sunday, but as long as they get clearance from their own club, we're not allowed to approach. The players have to approach us. We can't approach players.
I like this one.
Well, she was out of.
She was out of season.
She was out of season. Once you get to the end of the season, we waited until midnight and then we gave her a call. But yeah, we have to do everything by the book. I am actually. I kind of have to do everything by the book.
Yeah.
So we can't.
Are the players getting paid or just expenses? Or what, at your standard?
I don't get paid.
I don't get paid.
No.
I don't get paid. No.
I just wondered if they get expenses like petrol money, things like that.
I think some clubs cover expenses and other things, but
you just hear rumours.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think.
We'll play for one football.
At tier 6, it's as I said, it's rumours, but it's highly unlikely that players will get paid. I think it's when you go up to sort of tier 3 or tier 4 that people start to get expenses, which is a bit of petrol money and strikers are probably on a little bit more than goalkeepers.
Clean sheets.
No clean sheet.
No. We had in our day we had to pay. We were well out of pocket because going away to Liverpool one week and Doncaster the other, you're getting a coach, and then when you get there, you've got to pay for a hotel, you've got to pay for food. Wow. That all came out of all your pocket. Wow. So, jeez. I mean, I look back and I think, how did I even afford that?
Yeah, how much you spend?
And then when you think about some of those,
every night,
when you think of some of those people that are sort of commentators and things like that now as well, and they've gone through those sort of things as well. Why shouldn't they be qualified to speak about that? They put a shitload of time, and family probably been credited for the amount of determination they've used driving them up and down the country or putting money in to help them. Yeah. Why can't they commentate on the men's game? Because ultimately it's still a game of football that they're more than qualified to talk about, having earned that right through everything they've gone through in their lives.
Absolutely, and I think that's where football has got better in the women's game because it would have been unheard of even probably 2 years ago for someone to even go on I'm a Celebrity and even win it. She'd have been like first out 2 years ago, and now people are getting the recognition and actually
good point. I forgot about that.
Realising that actually like what you see is what you get because people they're in it in the game because of the love of the game. We're not in it for money. No. Expenses is always a good thing. Absolutely, I'll be speaking to Mr. Best about that. But, we do it because we enjoy it. Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to see how the players do improve throughout the season, and that's where you get your sort of buzz from.
Yeah. Dan Stobbart has asked the question. In terms of style of play and approach to games, what are the main things that have changed since you took over last season? Have you done a massive amount of changing things or anything that you do that's changed in terms of the style of play or how you look to play? What is the Dorking Ladies or how do you look to play? So
we play in the same system. So we played, when I first came in, I changed it to just slightly changed it. So we sort of played a 3 with a box and then 1 up front. Yeah. Although sometimes we did play a 3-5-2, so I changed it to a 3-5-2 consistently. Yesterday we had to slightly change where our number 9 was playing in the number 10 role, just because of personnel. We had a few players missing or injured and circumstances. So, but generally speaking, haven't changed the system. We've just got a few players in, and that's sort of obviously been the biggest change. Just the personnel, really. Yeah.
Okay, and how when you get new players and when you bring players in from another, and you might even be able to answer this. How is it to integrate with the existing group?
So I played a similar formation. So I knew there's a few of the girls that I played with at previous clubs. So it was in that respect, you kind of got like muscle memory, knowing where players going to be, and you're kind of used to that. I think like in terms of teams I've played for, the way they play has changed. Like a lot of the before was like route one, find a nice quick striker, set them off and off you go. But I think like the style of football that we play now is definitely on the floor,
Uh-huh.
which definitely benefits us at home because the Meadowbank pitch is,
Yeah.
I think that's maybe one of the things we notice when we go away is a bit more like
Cool, yeah.
Hackney Marshes away. It's not quite the the smooth carpet you want to pass the ball on. But yeah, we try to play football, like you said, personnel wise. I think we've all got technically gifted players that like to keep the ball on the floor and kind of move it quickly. But yeah, I think it depends on the teams you played for before. So I was quite fortunate in the formation that Dorking played similar to the one I played at Sutton.
As a centre half, heading the ball, do you head the ball? We were talking about Harris. Ed Harris. Saturday. Like I said to James, I worry for Ed because he heads the ball all the time. And how do you approach it when you're going to head the ball? Do you head the ball and think, do you rather let it go and bounce and kick it and clear it?
I mean, I'm like 5'10". If I don't head the ball, people are like, what are you doing?
Yeah, true. Yeah, fair point. Yeah.
Everyone else is kind of
Managers will be shouting at you to hit it, don't let it bounce.
So what's your thought on that?
I try to attack it. I try not to let it bounce. It's kind of one of the things that we...
Because you do bounce a lot in ladies football, don't
you
it?
get some of those loopy goal kicks, you're like, here comes a concussion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if it helps the team by heading it away, you've got to head it.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
We've actually scored a few headed goals this season, haven't we?
Yeah.
Have you? What, for set plays?
Yeah.
Good.
Can't give too much
No.
away because obviously we're halfway through the season.
Who's that then?
So Kerry,
I know she would. Yeah.
Kerry, the
Set
assistant,
piece
is in
master
charge of the
class,
set pieces. So anything sort of falls in against, she masters that. So we've had some good success.
Good.
Defensively and
Scored a few good free kicks as well. I've seen.
Zayla got a
Yeah.
really good one this season. Well, she got one against Sutton last year, didn't she?
She did.
Which is on the
I remember shouting, don't foul. And then they get a free kick.
So how are the crowds? Because I noticed, I looked the other day, 150 people were there for one game.
Yeah, that was quite a noisy game, that one.
I think we've had up to about, haven't we? We've had over that. We've had like about 250 maybe.
Have you?
Yeah.
The cup final had quite a lot, didn't it?
Cup final had a lot,
The away support had quite a lot of support as well.
Yeah, but as a league, home league, is it improving?
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain we had like 200 and 280 for a home game.
Really?
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good. Yeah, really good.
And it's good because it's they're all sort of they're all people. It's not as if we've sort of invited loads of schools or something locally to come in. It's
They've
people that have actually turned up to watch.
Brilliant.
It'd be nice if we
Dorking.
could get some more and people obviously that follow the men that come and watch. Even if it's not every week and
There was a couple of days yesterday.
Yeah, I mean even like away as well.
Yeah.
They've come to watch, but it'd be really good to get them in because it's the support is like definitely, and it's nice for the girls as well to play. Play against big crowds.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And not just sort of friends and
sometimes
family and stuff.
gets
but
us
people
over the
that come
line
down. Yeah.
because you do
That's
sort
good.
of if you feel the
12th woman.
support.
Yeah.
Not 12 man.
Yeah,
12 woman.
absolutely.
Just another point that Dan had here, and this is probably a good one actually for anybody that's listening and stuff, about the academy pathway and how girls could get involved in the club.
So the end of last season, we brought in two youth teams. There was already one youth team here, and we brought another two in. Debbie Francis brought her team over as well, so she's doing really well. And we went to watch the under 14s, 15s, 14s, and then we were due to go and see the under 14s as well, but their game got waterlogged. So we do keep an eye out on their results, and they're doing extremely well. So that's three teams. We're hoping we've got a meeting actually in a couple of weeks so that we can try and bring some more teams over and expand the lady side of football, because although we've not been going long, it's really important that we build those squads up, because obviously for the ladies team we only have one team, and it was just by the time I sort of got in at back end of last season, it was just too much of a push to get another team in. So it's really important that we get that team in, because if people aren't getting game time for the first team, that they don't have to go anywhere, because we all want to play football.
And you lose them. You could lose them.
We do lose,
Yeah.
because we all want to play football for 90 minutes. I was the same. So if you can't get it at Dorking, you're going to look elsewhere. So it'd be good to have a reserves, because when they're not getting that game time, they can play and then come back to the team when maybe they've worked on sort of certain areas, which happens to us all. So it's really important, and we're big on that, especially with the youth, because if you bring the youth through,
that's really important, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. Future of the club. Yeah.
Another question. Dorking Red Sox on Twitter, which is I think that might be David London's other account. Was the documentary intrusive on match days? As a fan, it looked like every time there was a team discussion, a camera and a sound crew wanted to catch it for the programme. Was it easy to blank that out to get used to it after a while? Was it more intrusive when they were doing the stuff outside? Because I know they filmed you and Kerry and stuff like that. Was that more intrusive when it was coming outside of the club and doing those other bits than it was when it was actually out the club?
I mean, obviously, I'm not used to playing in front of cameras, let alone being on a documentary. So when they first started filming, I was the goalkeeping coach. So the camera crew was this bit of a running joke where I was trying to sort of be behind the camera. And then obviously when I got the role of manager, they sort of said, look, now you're going to have to be in front of it. The first few weeks the camera crew were really good. They took me to one side and just said, look, if there's anything there that you're worried about, talk to me. And I just sort of said, obviously you do say things in the heat of the moment, and use the sort of odd bad language or whatever, whatever it is. And I sometimes I just that I found a bit difficult. Okay. As it happens, when we had the documentary that came out, I was like, phew, that's all right. That's come out as as natural as you can be, which I think was good for all the players. What you saw is what happened. But I think it was. I mean, obviously they kept saying, "Can we come and film around so and so's house or so and so's?" And some of the players were like, "No, I don't want that." In the end, we sort of gave in and said, "Okay, let's just do it, but just do it. This is our rules and regulations of what we want out of it." But it was certainly, I think, some players found it difficult at first, but towards the end, I think everyone sort of was quite natural in front of the camera, which is why we sort of hope that there's going to be a second series, because I think we actually got used to it by the end, and we. A lot of them came across really well. I mean, when I watched the documentary, I was so proud of all the players because they
got on to be on the TV quite a lot, haven't they? A couple of them.
Absolutely, and they really came across really well and as genuine on the documentary as they are off it, which is good.
But it's positive for the club, isn't it? Because it boosts the profile of the club, like Rich does with a bunch of amateurs. And it promotes women's football and everything else as well. And it breaks down any barriers for young girls that are looking to play football as well.
The feedback we've got has been unbelievable. I mean, people that have reached out to us on Twitter and Facebook, people that I haven't even spoken to for sort of 20, 30 years, and just literally just came across it by accident, because when it was originally going out, there was a lot of advertising, and then it got pushed back. It got pushed back because of the Queen, and then when it sort of then went out, there wasn't as much advertising, so people didn't really know when it was coming out, or the fact that they can actually download the whole lot on iPlayer. So we'd all seen it, and then I was getting messages going, "Oh, I've just got to the end of the 2 and you're really great." And I thought, all you've seen is me walking in with a Starbucks cup, because that was my first scene. And I thought, well, that just sums me up brilliantly. So towards the end of it, I'm like, well, you've got to watch 4, 5 and 6, because that's when I come into it more. But, that people's school friends that I hadn't seen for ages, but it's really good, because you've got a lot of positive feedback. I mean, like anything, you're always going to get the odd negative thing, but it happens.
There
but
wasn't there?
and apologies all round to anyone. But
some people took that a little bit too far, from what I saw on social media.
But you can only be yourself, and you can only just say. People don't realise that actually sometimes having the camera crew around it's you don't always know. You can't always remember what you say. I mean,
and it was probably a while ago as well, wasn't it? It was a couple of seasons ago.
I mean, there was things on the documentary. I thought I wasn't even manager then. I didn't even have a mic on, so I don't even know how they got that. they was just lip reading, and they just put something in, and also they cut certain bits, so it sometimes doesn't. You kind of have that where it's like the way they've edited it is really good, because obviously they've put it into a story. But yeah, certainly it was fun to do, definitely.
Well, before we finish, I just want one of my questions really. Like, I know you're second in the league at the moment, and only one goes up, doesn't it? And you're playing Brentford. Obviously, you beat Brentford, and you've got games in hand. So, what is the pyramid? What is the pyramid? Because I tried to find it. I found it. I wasn't sure how it works for the women's football. So, could you explain to me quick? Not too long, but in a way that how the pyramid works for you guys. Where you go next? Because you're in what? You're in Division 1 North.
Yeah, so we're in Tier 6. Right. So if we are promoted, so you're right, it's only one. If we're promoted, we go into Tier 5. So the easiest thing is to say is that's where Sutton went, and that's where Fulham are. So that's the two local teams. If then you go up from Tier 5, you go into Tier 4, which is where AFC Wimbledon are.
Right.
Then you go up to 3, and then obviously 2, and then 1, which is WSL.
So you're
we're Tier 6.
Tier 6. Yeah. So you've got 5 more to go if you want to get up to the top.
5 more promotions.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years then, Dorking? Where would you be aiming for, do you think, with what you've got, the club, the facilities, the backing and the players, things like that? Where do you think it's realistic in 5 years?
I mean, I think in an ideal world, if you got, everyone's going to say they're going to want promotion every year. It's unrealistic. I mean, you look at teams like AFC Wimbledon and Fulham; they've been in their particular tiers a long time. I mean, AFC Wimbledon are doing. I mean, both actually AFC Wimbledon and Fulham are doing really, really well. But they have been in that tier a long time, and it's the same. It's the same in terms of there is a lot of competition nowadays. I mean, even our league now, you've got I think 2 or 3 teams more than you did last season. So it's more competitive. You've got also players that aren't getting in the higher leagues that are dropping. So you've got a better standard. So every year you go, you've got better players, and it's harder and harder. And yesterday proved a point. Look, we've sort of bolstered our squad and our first 11. But still, we couldn't break down a team that had 11 players behind the ball. And it's one of those things where if we go up, sometimes it's just steady the ship and then go up as well. But yeah, in an ideal world, it'd be 5 years.
I reckon Tier 3. I'm looking at Tier 3. I'm looking at.
Well, that'd be good.
Well, then, James, you finish us off, matey.
I don't think I've got any more questions actually.
Where do you train? When do you train?
So we train.
You train once a week?
We train on a Tuesday and a Thursday, 8:30 to 10 o'clock on the Meadowbank pitch.
Oh, okay. So Thursday after the men train.
Yeah, which is great. And the men as well have been. It's nice when we go on after them because they all let on. How did you get on? Great result. And it's nice because you just do feel. I mean, I've been at teams before where there's been a men's section. And they probably wouldn't know, even if you were standing in front of them in a kit, they would not. They'd be clueless who you play for. And yet the Dorking men are all really great. As is Mark. I mean, very supportive of the girls, which is fantastic because you can't ask them more than that.
No,
brilliant.
It's good, really good.
Right.
Anything else from you, Gary?
No, I think that's it. I'll call it a wrap, shall we?
Good, yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming in.
One thing I do, I really am impressed. Please don't think I'm trying to, but listening to you guys, I'm really, really impressed. And I think Dorking Wanderers are in safe hands with you guys. I really do. And
thank you very much.
Good luck. Well, I really mean that. Good luck to you all.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Absolutely.
And you guys too as well.
Thank you.
Dorking Wanderers is proudly sponsored by Complete Carpentry and Build. Visit www.completecarpentryandbuild.co.uk. Check out their website.